It's the Kink Consultant Podcast, where we're turning up the heat on all things kink and dating, relationships, and pop culture. So close the door, plug in your headphones, and let's get down to it. Hey everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of the Kink Consultant. I'm Amanda Dames, your host, and today I'm super excited to introduce Brad Jones, the founder of my favorite dating app at the moment, Meet Kinksters. Brad, welcome.
Thanks, Amanda. I'm happy to be here.
So excited to have you. So Brad and I met earlier this year. Was it late last year?
I think we met earlier this year. We had an opportunity to actually meet in person, which was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
And we were swimming in very similar circles, trying to help people live their best lives. And I think
absolutely.
that's important in my motivation with Meet Kinksters, really, at the end of the day.
Yeah. So we were actually introduced through someone that neither of us have ever met in person. The funny Dom connected us, I think. He contacted me and told me about the app. And I was like, I really need to meet this guy. This is the first app I've heard of its kind, where it is strictly focused on kinksters. And it's actually got mass appeal, as in there are a lot of people on it already. So, Brad, can you tell me, how did you get started with the app?
Yeah, so there's lots of businesses you could start, and starting a dating app is not the easiest one. I will tell you that. But it is a passion of love for me because I'm very, very passionate about the topic of helping people form relationships that are both romantically and sexually compatible. And I'm also trying to solve my own problem, right? I'm in my 40s now, and really throughout my 30s I was able to find that I was discovering my personal sexual identity and what I wanted to share with partners, and there really wasn't anything on the market that allowed me to pursue both a sustainable, real deep relationship with someone and be able to communicate the sexual desires and component of a relationship that has lasting power up front. And what I would have to do, and I think a lot of people who have the same problem have done, is, I would go on to pick your dating app and try to say and telegraph with the right kinds of keywords and hints and suggestions that, this is the kind of person, this is the kind of relationship I'm looking for, without coming across as creepy or too forward, right? Because a lot of apps in this space assume that you're just after a hookup. And I'm not just after a hookup. I think most people, after a certain point in life, want a relationship that is deeper than just a hookup. And there really wasn't anything on the market like that. So Meet Kinksters, the premise is very simple. It's just to really meld those two parts of the adult dating experience, sexual compatibility and romantic compatibility, provide that introduction, and the rest, of course, is up to you.
Well, thank you for all of that. And I agree. I feel like what you really did was you took it to heart when they say if you want something done right, do it yourself. And then you went off and built an entire app. So, did it work for you?
Well, it's funny. I am in a relationship, but I was building Meet Kinksters at the time, so we didn't meet on the app. But I really am passionate about empowering people to live their best lives. I think our life is too short to be in a relationship that isn't set up for success. There are so many things that are either out of your control or that you really can't control for up front, right? Losing a job, kid problems, raising kids is hard if you want kids, navigating your career, certainly post COVID, right? There's a lot of challenges around where to live, all of these kinds of things that you can't control for up front. Life is unpredictable, but the things that you can control for is how do you select somebody that matches you in ways that do set you up for success? And, this is a podcast about healthy adult sexuality. Let's be real, right? If you are dominant and looking for a submissive, right, regardless of your gender, or you are asexual, right, or you are vanilla, these are things that are important to match on. And if you're mismatched down the road, when you have already fallen in love and are really emotionally invested in somebody, and then you find out that you're sexually incompatible, that's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
This is a world of what, 7 billion people or something like that at this point. I don't believe in soulmates. I think that's kind of a weird thing to believe in, but there are probably thousands, if not even maybe millions of people around the world who you could have a really healthy relationship with. But just getting along with somebody, and I've had this in my personal experience, just getting along with someone on a lot of the things that matter doesn't mean that you're going to match on all of the things that really matter that are deal breakers for you. And if a shared sexual compatibility is a deal breaker for you, maybe it isn't for certain people. That is one of the most important things that we can address early on. And you can't do that with most of the mainstream dating apps that are available on the market. And so that's why I really went out on a limb. I mean, you have to be insane to want to create a dating app. It is not an easy business to build. We can talk more about that. But now that I have jumped into this space, I'm in it 100%. And I think that there's a lot of promise in this market because people are desperately looking for real deep connection.
Absolutely. And it's so true. I think that no matter what app you're using, it's impossible to even address at all, like any, if definitely not all, deal breakers, right? Because if you're using one of the ones that aren't specialized, you still have a bunch of deal breakers you can't talk about. This knocks a really big one out of the way. Like the only thing you know on any of the other apps is someone wants to date or they're looking for some type of connection. Here, they're looking for some type of connection plus the kink side. I'm on the app. I am taking like a slight break from dating, but I cheat every so often and get on Meet Kinksters and check out who's in my area and things like that. How did you figure out how to set it up, right? Was it trial and error? Because one of my favorite parts about it is I can literally choose all of my kinks, and there is an extensive list there that I've never seen. I don't think I've seen a list like that outside of FetLife, which isn't even a dating app. How did you come up with this and like build in the logic for it all?
Well, look, I'm not going to bore you with all the technical detail, right? But I am a technical founder, so I have the advantage of being able to build the product that I want to build. I appreciate the kind words that you have for the app. And yes, the killer feature of Meet Kinksters is not crazy AI or video dating or anything like that, that a lot of people sort of think is, the special sauce that you're going to sprinkle on a dating app and it's going to be revolutionary. Really, at the end of the day, we're talking about an introduction service. Dating apps are introduction services. I cannot control whether or not you have a good relationship or if you're going to get matches or anything like that. Anybody who tells you that they're going to guarantee you an experience like that, go pay a overpriced matchmaker a few $1,000s for that kind of experience. I can't guarantee you that. As you just said, I can provide is the ability to say, here's what I'm into. If that appeals to you, great, we can move forward. And I'm interested in your thoughts about this, as especially because women, I do think in our sort of heteronormative, generic experience in the US, which, is a lot of what drives dating for most people, it is a different experience, right? For men and women. And I think what we're actually able to do when we can say what we're about up front is that it takes the pressure off of that experience because I don't have the pressure. If I'm dating somebody in sort of a vanilla world, but I'm kinky and I want, a particular kind of relationship or whatever, I've got to telegraph that to you. I've got to kind of hide the ball. I've got to like kind of hope that maybe things get sexual on a certain date or whatever. That's not a way to start a healthy relationship. If I know that we're after the same kind of things early on, that takes the pressure off. I can say, you know what, I can actually get to know this person and I don't have to feel pressure to jump in bed with them, right? It's almost
Mhm.
paradoxical that you can have a more, dare I say, traditional dating experience where you can get to know somebody a little bit deeper without feeling the pressure to get sexual, right away if that's not what you're into, because down the road you've got a good chance of actually being compatible, right? And you don't have to kind of slip it in and hope that they don't get scared off. That's the goal. I'm interested to
You
see if that resonates with you.
you have literally just blown my mind because you're right. The whole time I'm like, yes, it's a much more authentic dating experience, but it didn't even cross my mind how much more traditional it is because I'm not waiting for my big reveal of are they actually going to be okay with this part of my life? It's sort of like that can be on the back burner and then I get to find out about all the other things. Which is that how vanilla people are dating? Are they all just waiting for that? I
Yeah,
guess they
and
are.
yeah, and to be clear, right? I mentioned sort of that the experience is different for men and women because
Mm.
building a dating app, you do have to confront realities of the society that we live in, right? Meet Kinksters is welcoming of all sorts of expressions of sexuality. You talk about how we built it. I've relied upon some research that has been done about even labels for gender and sexual orientation that are, backed by some research about how people can express their sexual identity, and we welcome that. You can find ways to describe yourself, or maybe even just describe yourself by saying, look at my profile, and I
Mhm.
don't even want to apply a label. That being said, online dating is on the business side. Unfortunately, the big players are all about extracting membership fees out of men to meet women. And while that is sort of just a truism about the market dynamics. I don't think it has to drive bad behavior or make us be less human in our experience. Meet Kinksters, for instance, you can't post, pictures, nude pictures, right? You can't post really explicit things on the app, even though it is a sex positive app, because we want people to be connecting in a serious way. If you want to send dick pics to somebody, find somewhere else to do it.
There are so many other dick pic options.
Sure.
And I love that that is the case because as a woman dating, I don't need to see your dick on your profile photo. And that's something that sets me Kinksters apart as well. It does feel, I hate to use this word again, but traditional. As in, it's a normal, it's more like an actual dating app as opposed to here's a penis and here are all my kinks. There's so much more.
Yeah, which I think explains why. I mean, if you want to sort of look at what are the options for, because I mean, let's be clear. I appreciate in metro areas in America, especially, but internationally, I mean, we really have no limits as to where you can join, but we have a better presence in the US. The numbers are growing, but they are still meager. And I don't do what a lot of upstarts in this industry do, which is to lie to my users by creating a bunch of fake profiles of attractive women that don't exist, right? To incentivize men to open up their wallet and pay for a premium membership to message women that literally do not exist or are AI chatbots or are paid animators from Asia. This is what my competition does. A lot of my competition, not all, but a lot of them. And it's a lie. And I'm just too good a Boy Scout to do it. Really, I do want you to feel like you're using any other sort of dating app, but for the fact that you can also match based on sexuality. And I even go so far as you have to take a selfie when you join. We don't publish it, right? But we do use it for spam prevention. Spammers don't like taking selfies of themselves and showing you who they are, right? So you actually have to prove that you are a live, real person behind the phone or the computer when you sign up. That limits, potential growth a little bit because it is a speed bump to join. But again, I want people to have the best shot of matching as they possibly can, but it doesn't stop people from having bad profiles, right? You still have to put your best face forward. And that's, I think, part of the future of Meet Kinksters is that we can help people put their best face forward and learn how to express themselves, the vanilla side and the kinky side, if that's what you're about, and show your whole person and not be pigeonholed into just feeling like you have to put an explicit photo up because it's an adult dating site.
Yeah, because it's more than an adult dating site. It just, I mean, I guess they're all adult, but it's not a sexually explicit one, even though it deals a lot with sexuality. I want to go back to what you were saying about those fake profiles. As a woman dating, that's not something we run into a lot because we are the ones getting messaged. And I know a lot of times when I swipe right, I match with someone and I'm living the dream on the apps. But I've heard from so many men that they get on and really, I see on a lot of men's profiles them writing like, I'm not looking for your OnlyFans. I'm not interested. I'm not going to pay for your subscription. So, do you keep those types of things off the app as well?
Yeah, I mean, advertising is not permitted. There's a few things about, I think, the modern online dating setup that the sort of swipe culture that you just described that
Mhm.
doesn't work and that we have set up to try to engineer for a better experience. First of all, it's not a swipe app. That's a very purposeful choice that I've made because I think swiping commoditizes dating in a way that's not particularly helpful. It is a way, it's a very successful way for dating apps to keep you coming back, honestly gamifying your desperation, right?
Yeah.
Especially if you are a man, right? There you constantly go on to the app, right? You even say, I go on there and I swipe right and it's like, yeah, guys swipe right far more than women do because it's a numbers game. And I'm trying to sort of get away from that because again, swiping doesn't help you actually hone in on people who you're well suited to when it comes to sexual compatibility and all of the other stuff, right? So the experience on Meet Kinksters is you see a list of sort of who is near you, right? It's more like old
Yeah.
school match.com, right? Or OkCupid or an app like that where you see the universe of people that is out there and then you can sort of go through them and look at them and consider them and maybe come back later and send an introduction. It's much more purposeful because swiping gets you addicted to the app, but
Yeah.
it doesn't really get you to better quality matches. And also, a swipe doesn't convey any information. On Meet Kinksters, I've required people to actually send an introduction. So you have to, hey, baby is not a good introduction. You have to put in a little bit of effort. It doesn't guarantee you a match, but it gives you an opportunity to actually say why you're interested, which I think is more human.
Yeah, and I think that what you were saying about swiping is so true because it doesn't foster any type of connection. You swipe right and you match with someone, and the immediate thought isn't, oh, let me go connect and create a meaningful connection right now through a message. It really is, when's the next person going to match with me? So you go swipe 20 more times and then you might go back to your matches later. It depends. You may be done after that. So have you had any success stories so far from Meet Kinksters? Have you heard of any marriages yet?
Well, marriages, I'm not quite sure about that. I mean, Meet Kinksters is still very new. People do match. What we need, and this is the call to action for your listeners, is more people to join, because the more people who join and give it an opportunity to work for them, the more matches there will be. And I think I would love to hear about the first long-term partnership, even short-term partnership that works, right? From users that, we can share some success stories like that.
Hmm.
But I think just as important, and this is a great segue into really why I think you and I have connected on this and some of the plans that we have around helping people in this space, is that it's not just about dating, right? I think people are desperate to be validated and educated and feel like they are not weird or wrong or perverted, right, for wanting what they want as a consensual adult in a
Yeah.
healthy relationship. That's my measure of success, right? That, and honestly building a viable business. But I think there is plenty of money to be made in helping people. So I think compared to the large incumbent players in mainstream dating like Match.com or Match Group, really, that owns not all of them, but most of them. It's a public company. They've got to chase profit quarter over quarter to keep their stock price up, and it's not working all that well. I'm privately held. I can actually be more concerned with building something sustainable and helping people, and that's my goal.
That is definitely why we connected, because de-shamifying and demystifying kink, that's our North Star right now, or at least mine. And I think it's yours, and we've connected over it before. Because in my experience of talking to people, no matter how long they've been in the scene, shame can still sneak up on people, right? And the more you are validated and understand you're not alone, the better, or like the more enjoyable your experience can be overall. What sets you apart from FetLife? Because as we know, FetLife is not a dating app, right? But a lot of people use it as one. And Meet Kinksters is the first app that came along for me. And I was like, this is sort of like FetLife, but without all of the noise that comes along with it. It's sort of like your community is right there on the page. And it's not just an app, right? You can use it on your PC or laptop as well, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah, we have a web version. You can use it on the web. I wouldn't say that right now Meet Kinksters is a replacement for FetLife.
no.
I do think that there is some opportunity there to improve upon really what remains the only viable option for sort of social networking in the sex positive space. But FetLife has first mover advantage. It is the thing that people like yourself, right? When people say, "Where do I find community?" Now, I would say 99% of the time somebody experiences in the
Right.
alternative sexuality space, I would say, right? Not just kink, right? Because while it's called Meet Kinksters, right? I'm like I said, you can find somebody who's asexual, right? That is a perfectly valid sexual preference that will drive your relationship success. But FetLife, you're correct, doesn't want to be a dating app. They could certainly be a dating app if they wanted to be one. But John Baku, who owns FetLife, has publicly stated many times that it is not a dating app. He wants, and the leadership there wants, people to connect in real life at munches, at sloshes, things like that, and use FetLife as an adjunct to real life. I think that's a bit of a denial of reality, but it also provides a market opportunity that I'm trying to exploit. So I'm not going to complain about it. But I think FetLife's a victim of its own success. And also in 2024, online spaces are increasingly marketplaces for commerce as much as they are anything else. So a
Hmm.
lot of, again, speaking to the male experience, and I understand that this does not translate for everyone, but speaking to the male experience on FetLife, your mailbox is not overflowing with people wanting to date you. Your, pictures are not getting hundreds of thousands of likes, right, from
Yeah.
thirsty men. And when you do get contacted, a lot of times it's from somebody who is selling their OnlyFans, which is not to disparage anybody who's on OnlyFans. Content
Absolutely
creators,
not.
that's valid sex work. But if your intent is to be on FetLife to try to connect with people and maybe date, right, or form some sort of romantic relationship or sexual relationship, it can be very frustrating to basically be seen as a mark. I think that is what we are trying to overcome. That's why, on Meet Kinksters, you're not allowed to advertise your OnlyFans. Sex workers are welcome, but it is not the place to advertise. It is a place to connect, right, for relationships. I want it to be a safe space there. So we moderate very heavily for spam for that reason. It's not to erase that part of the valid sexual experience, but not every forum is designed for every use. And FetLife, unfortunately, right now is basically a porn site. It's monetized. The only reason to join FetLife with a premium membership is to watch user generated porn. There's no other reason to pay. And similarly, I think the reason to pay for platforms like Meet Kinksters is for access to people who are serious about connecting for the reasons that we exist. And I'm not trying to eat FetLife's lunch on being a porn site. I'm just not, right? They can be good at what they're doing and I'll be good at what I'm doing.
And that's the thing, I think they are really good at they're so good at doing what they're doing that people are trying to use it to date or meet other people just by going to profiles and direct messaging them. And it's kind of not for that. Also, a lot of people don't even have their messages set to accept things from people who they're not connected with already because of all of these like spam type messages or unwanted messages that come through on both sides, it sounds like. So that's why I love Meet Kinksters because I feel like it is what so many people wanted FetLife to be in terms of the dating side. That was my point. Would you agree
Mm-hmm.
with that?
I would agree with that. I think specialization is a valid way to build a business, and I am trying to specialize in a part of the market that is underserved. The male experience in sex positive circles, if you are straight, can be frustrating because for whatever reason, societally, right? Men are sort of still seen as the pursuers. I'm hoping that things will change in that regard. We need to have spaces where everyone is treated with respect and that, spam or advertising or whatever is not tolerated. But also, I think what I'm trying to encourage my users to do is really lead with their humanity. If you're a man in this space that is reasonably frustrated, right, with being messaged or liked or whatever on FetLife by only people who are selling their OnlyFans,
Mhm.
right, you also need to be part of the solution by being kind and human yourself. When you go onto a platform like Meet Kinksters, and you could probably speak to this as a woman who is on this site and sites like it, right, trying to
Mhm.
find a good match. If a man reaches out with a not creepy message that actually shows some interest in you and wants and leads with a genuine desire to connect all of the things that matter, romantic and sexual, there's a pretty good chance you're going to get a response. But you have to set yourself up for success with a good profile, good photos, and show that you're serious and not just thirsty. And this is something that I really want to help men with by way of creating a space that rewards that kind of behavior.
Rewards it how? Like, just gears it towards it? Or are there ways that you know how some of the other apps do something where if you respond regularly or something, you become like a super user type of thing? Is that something that Meet Kinksters would be open to encourage that sort of human connection?
It's under active development, right? By rewards, I think I mean in the near term, this is a space where because we heavily moderate, right, user, I get a report about a user that's acting poorly, they're gone, right? A lot of the larger platforms tolerate poor behavior from people simply because they're willing to either pay for a premium membership or they want to keep their user numbers high or whatever. But again, because my incentives are different, because it's privately held, because it's small, because we actually want to do something different, I can't promise women on our platform, for instance, that you're not going to get messages from people that you're not interested in. But if you say no, that person never messages you ever again, right? They are
Mhm.
blocked because you're not interested, right?
Mhm.
And if their behavior is poor, they'll be off of the platform. So we can set up a culture of not tolerating bad behavior to where I really want Meet Kinksters to be a platform that has a reputation as a safe space for everybody. It's a safe space for the general
Yeah.
use case of straight men and women, that women can feel like they can be on the platform and be contacted in a way that is more genuine. And also that men can feel like they're in a space where showing genuine interest and following the rules means that you have a higher chance of success because that's the community that we're developing. It won't happen overnight, but that's my goal.
I love that the focus is on creating a safe community because that was one of the first questions I asked you was like, what safety net do you have in place when you're in this space? Because it can be so dangerous, especially when it's known as an adult dating site. And then the other part I love is my biggest ick. The thing that turns me off the most is when I feel like I'm being treated like a kink dispenser. And what you've described as like being able to boot people off and encouraging people to make that real connection is weeding out people looking for a kink dispenser. And I think that's where the human element is lost, especially when it comes to kink, because people aren't used to having it all in one place and they kind of forget how to act when they do have it all in one place. So, do you have certain people? I know I have a lot of people reach out to me and they're like, I can't find X, I can't find Y. Do you have people reach out to you and say, like, do you have these people on the app? Like, I think we talked about it a little bit earlier, but the femdom space, it seems to be a little bit of a desert. And I know that people reach out to me about that all the time. Do you have the same experience with people reaching out
Hmm.
to you?
Yeah, I mean, and when you talk about safety too, right? I mean, there is a component of safety of like some people aren't comfortable sharing their entire, like their face, for instance, right? So it is a premium feature, but we allow people to blur their pictures before they match, right? So you can have your profile, you have photos on record essentially, but they're blurred out, and you only allow other people to see your photos with your actual, identity after you decide that you want to match with them. So that's an example too of some safety there. But yeah, people reaching out, I would say a lot of our early members are in a few different buckets. We have a lot of submissive men, to your point about femdom. It is not surprising because it runs so counter to the gender stereotypes of especially Western society,
Hmm.
but a lot internationally as well, of men being dominant by default. And I think that's we shouldn't deny reality. I think a lot of men do identify as D types and women as S types, but it's not universal. And I don't even know if it's a majority, right? It may be a plurality. But if you are a man in Western society and you prefer to be in a female-led relationship or be with somebody who is at least, dominant in the bedroom, a woman who is dominant in the bedroom, that's not seen as the norm. And it's a great example of why we do need spaces like Meet Kinksters, because if you get along with somebody in all of the ways, they'd be a great mother and, partner and manages their money and are successful in business and all of that. If you're talking to a man who's submissive, that's all great, but it's not sufficient to have a sexually fulfilling relationship. I can't snap my fingers and find a match for every single person that comes onto my site. What I can provide you is a level playing field where you can put your best foot forward and meet somebody who is looking for the same thing. And if I have a suggestion for men who are looking for a dominant female, it is think of yourself, right, as the catch, right? You have to be desirable to the dominant, right? Don't just put a bunch of bathroom selfie photos on my app, right? And just say, I want a femdom. Actually work on yourself and put your best foot forward and have a profile that will attract the level of dominant partner that you want. I think this is where people like yourself, Amanda, can help in this space, because you're not going to be given a compatible partner on a silver platter. You've got to invest in putting your best foot forward. And I think for submissives, that includes really making yourself appealing to the kind of dominant that you want, because dominant women are out there, to use this example, but they're not going to go after a low value submissive. They want the highest value quality submissive that is ready to bring their best self to that relationship. That's how you meet a dominant female.
That was amazing advice, and I couldn't agree more. This whole idea of just like, "Oh, pick me," throwing stuff at the wall and hoping that someone's just gonna come in and swoop them up, that's not a reality. No matter what amazing dating app there is out there, I don't even think you could pay a matchmaker to work with that. So it really is about putting like, as you say, everyone needs to be putting their best foot forward, and I think that's solid advice.
I think in our future on Meet Kinksters, as we get more and more users and have the ability to really get some of that data that will help support these kinds of things, is to reward good profiles with premium placement in the app. There is nothing keeping us from promoting profiles that are just subjectively better than low effort profiles and rewarding that kind of behavior. And I think that certainly could be in our future, because I can't control end user behavior, but I can incentivize certain kind of behavior. I can certainly think of a universe in which we have better profiles filter to the top, which is different, for instance, than an algorithm. A lot of my competition, right? The thing about swiping is that I can hide people at the bottom of the stack if
Mhm.
I run a swipe app. This is the dark underbelly of the dating industry, right? There's a lot of dark underbelly. We've talked a little bit about it, right? But one of them is hiding the good matches behind a paywall or at the bottom of the swipe stack. People do complain on higher volume mainstream dating apps that it's like, yeah, I always sort of seem to get matches that aren't all that pertinent, but then, as soon as I go premium, Yeah, all of the hotter people are there, and that's purposeful. I don't do that to my users, right? You can see with a free account, anybody who's within 100 miles of you, right, when you sign up on Meet Kinksters, you are limited to the number of introductions you can send. That's the main monetization, right? So if you really want to send messages to a lot of people, and let's be honest, you're going to have to send some messages to a lot of
Mhm.
people. You're not going to find a match sending one message a week or just sitting there waiting for Mr. or Mrs. Right to come along. That you have to pay for. But it is
Yeah.
fully functional, right? And you can see everybody. You can get to the bottom of the stack immediately. And I think that's important for me because I'm not hiding the ball. You have to help do the hard work of showing off your best self and sending a good message to somebody. You really get one shot at sending a good message to somebody to make them go, you know what, I want to learn more. And I'm going to click accept.
So you're really in this with the person, both people in the party actually trying to make it happen. And you're right. On some of those other mainstream high volume apps, you reach your max number of likes, and then all of a sudden it seems the perfect person is put in front of you. But in order to swipe right on them, you're out of luck unless you pay. And it's gross that it's being commoditized like that because these are people's love lives. They're trying to connect, and you want to be able to give them that opportunity.
And I would say too, right? Like women have a different experience on dating apps. Okay. You know this.
We do.
And part of, I think, what women should be insulted by with how they are treated by a lot of my competition, not all, but a lot, is that you are the product for most dating apps. You, especially the more sort of, traditionally attractive you are, right? The more sort of social dating value by traditional measures that you provide, right? The more likes that you get, paradoxically, as a woman, right, on let's say Tinder,
Hmm.
the more likes that you get from men above the average, if talking in straight land, the more you will be treated as a product and less as somebody who is actually destined for a relationship that might work because you have your value to the platform, especially as a free user, is in being that carrot at the end of the premium upgrade stick. And I think that's perverse.
You're right.
And we
There
need to, as an industry, talk about how we are treating men and women. And there is poor treatment on both sides of the equation because dating platforms don't care if women actually match, that you are used as a tool to extract cash out of lonely men.
That is absolutely disgusting, and admittedly, I have never thought about it like that, but I feel like I'm about to go delete all of my other profiles right now because you're right. In fact, they're probably less invested in certain people actually making a connection at all because that means they're losing some of their free product that they're using to make money off of. I'm gonna say it, it almost makes the ones who are at least paying women to be on there almost more ethical because at least they're paying them. This is insane, and I have never thought about it like that. I don't know if I like this. It's better to be aware, though.
Well, it's not unlike any other social media, right? Where we are all the product on social media, right? Like
Yeah,
your data is really how you pay for free Facebook or Instagram or whatever else. That's part of how this industry works, but we in dating especially I think have a moral obligation to treat people with a little bit more respect and help them solve their problem, which is meeting compatible people. And especially in the sex positive space, I don't necessarily have the problem, which is endemic to a lot of mainstream dating, which is that a customer helped is a customer lost, which
mhm.
is the case in traditional sort of monogamous dating. But the reason why that doesn't translate for adult dating or sex positive dating is because a lot of, not all, but a lot of my potential users are non-monogamous.
Mhm.
So meeting one person you are compatible with doesn't necessarily mean that you aren't done looking for other compatible people,
Yeah.
right? And also, sexually positive people want community. And so, even after you have found somebody who you might want to date, you are still interested in meeting people who you might want to be friends with. And mainstream dating is doing this as well, right? I can't say that this is a unique thought. The mainstream players, mostly because they need to find a way to retain users after really they either burn out on dating or find somebody they like, are also doing social discovery. But that's particularly sticky in this space because kinky people in particular like meeting other kinky people and hanging out, even if you're not going to have sex.
The need for community is even higher when you're kinky because, yeah, I mean, you can go play, I don't know, cornhole with a group of people, and there's your community who enjoys playing cornhole. Things like this are they're a lot more secretive. And as much as I wanted that to change, sometimes, sex life needs to be private, but just knowing that you have this group of people that you can meet up with who share at least a base level common interest makes a huge difference. That is what I get the feel from the Meet Kinksters is I sense the community in it and know that that's like my pool of people.
Yeah, like I said, it's selection bias.
What do you have any other dating advice tips for profiles? Because now I'm like, Brad really knows what he's talking about. What other hard truths do you want to lay down right now?
I am trying to be the guy in the dating industry who will talk about the things that a lot of people in the dating industry will not talk about. And if you like these truth bombs, I appreciate that because I think there's a lot of people who don't appreciate the truth bombs because I am sort of, showing you the dark underbelly. Dating advice for men in particular is that you have to put in more effort. It feels unfair, but you are just going to have to put in more effort. I am here to tell you that, the numbers on Meet Kinksters are about similar to other adult focused dating apps. Roughly 90% of my users are men.
Okay.
Okay. This is the truth bomb.
Yeah.
90% of users are compete if you are straight. Okay. So not all of those men are straight, but most of them are because most people are straight, right? That's not a surprise, or at least are interested in dating people of the opposite sex. Okay. It's a two-sided marketplace where 90 something percent of users are competing for the attention of 10% ish of users. This is just the truth. I would love that number to improve. I would love for every female listener on this podcast right now to sign up because you have heard me tell you that I think it is a healthier place, hopefully, than elsewhere. This is just the truth. So if you are in that 90%, you absolutely have to do something to stand out. Otherwise, you're
Yeah.
just lost in the crowd. And I can tell you, it's not hard to stand out because most men don't know how to write a dating profile, especially on a sex positive platform. So if you can just put the sex aside for a minute, write a dating profile that shows who you are, the best vanilla version of yourself, right? Then sprinkle in the sex positivity and you will have some success. Not 100% success, I can't guarantee it, but you will stand out against all of those other guys who think that a shirtless selfie in a bathroom mirror
Yeah.
will appeal to the smaller universe of people that you're all going after. And this is the truth, right? The only other person really in the dating industry that's talking about this is the CEO of Grindr, right? He's public saying that mainstream dating treats men like shit. And what he means by that is that they are commoditized in sort of the, broken incentive way that we have talked about, and that we are not helping men realize that they're getting in their own way. And as a man, I can say this, right?
Yeah.
Men on these platforms are getting in their own way, and you have to put yourself in the mind of, just like we were talking about doms and submissives, you have to put yourself in the mind, regardless of the power dynamic at play, of the person that you want to appeal to, right?
Yeah.
Show up online like you want to show up on a first date, right?
Yeah.
Putting your best face forward.
That is solid advice, and that was the truth I was looking for because I do think so many people think, "Oh, this is easy." Like, admittedly, I set up my profile, I think, from bed when I was doing it, And I remember having to like turn on a light for the selfie portion of it to validate myself. But I think it makes it a little bit lazier and sometimes how we set up profiles because we're not in the headspace of I'm trying to attract someone right now. What's the best way to do that? I'm really glad I needed you to say it, Brad, because you have a cutthroat way of getting through to people. I think it's important to be realistic as well about like your point is solid. You really get back what you put out there. So if you just are putting out the bare minimum, what you're going to see is the bare minimum back.
That's true. And also, I mean, you are the kink consultant, right? So I'm sure you have talked many times over your career to people about if you live I live in a very small town right now, right? So there's no munches or sloshes or anything around, right? But when I'm in larger cities, I like to go to get togethers.
Hmm.
If you show up at a munch or a slosh and you stay to yourself and you wear a stained t-shirt and look all schlubby and not approachable,
Yeah.
guess what? You're not going to be approached because nobody wants to talk to a sad sack, right? You have to
No,
you
they
have to
don't.
put out the energy that you want to receive. And I can say it is hard to do sometimes. It is hard to
Yeah.
do. Dating is hard, but if you want a relationship, if you want to find community, you have to, there's a component of even faking it till you make it, right? That's not to say that you should be ingenuine. If you want to be confident, you have to get a little bit out of your comfort
You have
zone
to put in the
and put
effort
yourself out there.
because a relationship itself is effort. So you need to put the effort in before you even start the relationship by dressing the part or showing up and having put thought into it. It's a thoughtfulness around it that I think makes the
Mhm.
difference.
Another trend in the business of dating is matchmaking. right?
Mhm.
So the sure sign of a failing dating product is that you pivot to in-person events. And that's not to say that there isn't money in in-person events or matchmaking, but it shows that you are giving up on trying to actually connect people online. I know that you are, right, grasping at the thing that you can try to control, right? If you run an event, put a bunch of money into getting people out at the promise of free food and speed dating, right? You could make it look like your platform is successful, but you're not succeeding at connecting people online. That's the hard thing to do. I bring up matchmaking because matchmaking is an expensive product, right?
Yeah.
But I will tell you that a lot of matchmakers aren't making money by actually matchmaking their clients. They are showing value to their clients by giving you some of the advice I'm giving you for free right now, right? Think about how you are presenting yourself, right? Visualize the match that you want, right? Don't go on dates with people you know are not compatible with you. Don't ignore red flags. Go get a haircut. Think about the clothes that you're wearing, right? Simple things that you can do for a lot less money than paying a matchmaker, because a matchmaker, especially the higher end ones, aren't going to even do business with people who are not willing to put the work into themselves before they try to match you with their other clients, because then they won't have any more clients.
I am blown away by the level of transparency and forcefulness of this truly solid advice. If you are listening right now and you are in the dating field and or in the dating pool and you are experiencing any of these things, I think this is extremely solid advice. It is things that I've never said it as bluntly, but you're 100% right. Stop showing up like a sad sack.
Okay, so Amanda, I mean, I've done a lot of talking. I appreciate you saying that my advice is good, but I mean, one, am I wrong about any of this?
No,
And
that's
two,
the
I'm
thing.
not a woman, right?
Okay.
Like what would you add to this
Okay, I'm going to
that
tell
that I
you.
haven't said?
Here's why I'm asking you about it. One of the things that I find just being in a public space, I'm posting on Instagram and TikTok, people do not want to listen to a woman telling a man how to be. And that's just a truth. And I experience it with some of my clients too. They want to hear a man say it, right? And I think I'm already thinking of the clips I'm going to cut this into to put out there because hearing it from a man, for better or worse, or maybe it's just how we're biologically wired, it resonates more and it hits the point home so much faster. So that's why I've been asking. As a woman trying to give this advice, it doesn't land the same. I often talk mostly to women when I'm giving advice on TikTok and Instagram, when I'm creating free content, just trying to educate people. I know who my audience is because I know who's listening. Yes, I talk about Dom and sub, but you kind of mentioned it earlier. A lot of women are sub leaning. So when I talk about a sub, I do not gender it, but oftentimes that's who I end up talking to about it. And I myself am a switch, so I both Dom and sub messages resonate, but that is why I have let you talk, Brad, because you are just spitting out facts.
Well, yeah, I think that's great. I think we are saying some things that need to be said, which is
Yeah.
not, I spent a lot of my life before I got into this space in sort of the political spheres. I've done, a lot of media, right? One of the ways, and unfortunately, I think what has happened with media in the age of YouTube and short attention spans and a 24-hour news cycle is that the more provocative and incendiary you are, the more airtime you get. So why not just say all the provocative and incendiary things? I don't think what I'm saying here is all that provocative, really. It might be a little bit uncouth in some circles because it's nicer to sort of go along and get along, but I'm here to disrupt an industry. I am here because I am angry about the lack of legitimate options in this industry and the way that both men and women, for the reasons that we have talked about, have been treated poorly by the dating industry. But also, I think we have to treat each other better. I think that men and women in the online sphere
Yeah.
are really talking past each other. I think that a lot of men that are otherwise good guys have fallen into a bit of a trap of sort of the manosphere. I don't know if you see any of this, but there is a
Oh.
real trend, right, of online influencers who want to tell men that they just need to be more alpha, the power alpha, right? Or the
Yes.
the the high value man and all of this kind of thing. And at the surface, if you're sort of an alpha dominant type, what's wrong with being alpha? What's wrong with being a high value man? But what they mean by that, right, when you start listening to what they say, is that you need to be an asshole or you need to treat dating and women like a transactional game where nobody has the other person's best interests at heart, right? That dating is simply a game to be played to find the hottest or highest value woman or whatever, however you define that. And it turns men in particular, I think, into a headspace that is not healthy for themselves or for their potential partners. But what it does is channel anger. And I think, especially in the post pandemic world where we are lonelier than ever,
Yeah.
loneliness is an epidemic, right?
Yeah.
The Surgeon General of the United States says that loneliness is an epidemic, and I believe them. I think what has happened online is that we have taken that legitimate complaint of being lonely and we have channeled the anger and frustration that can come from that. And I understand that men can feel angry and frustrated in dating for all the reasons we've discussed. Then it is a numbers game for men that it is just not for women if you are straight. But you cannot let that anger take you
Hmm.
over and change your personality, because you will become the kind of man that you don't want to be. And if you listen to the manosphere, you will become a rotten, miserable man that the kind of woman that you want to be with will run from.
You know
And
what?
it's
Yeah.
sad.
Yeah, it is sad. I feel like you nailed that so hard, and it is something I'm seeing. I think the New York Times recently wrote about sort of how men are turning back to the church more, and there's nothing wrong with that, but a lot of the comments under when they posted that were basically women explaining how difficult it is talking to men today because they have fallen under that manosphere. And you're describing red-pilled men in like, and it is, I think that's a pandemic that we're going through, especially dating out there, and that anger is palpable. I'm feeling it from more and more men, even on dating apps myself. So I appreciate you addressing it so eloquently.
And I want to say the red
Yeah.
pill man, right?
Yes.
Again, all of these things come from a place where it's like you understand why people do and say the things that they
Yeah.
do. The red
Yeah.
pill is from the Matrix, right? It's like when you talk about the red pill in the Matrix, it's like, yeah, I do want to see the world for the way it is, right?
Yeah.
But that has been co-opted by toxic people online who want to say to men who have a legitimate complaint about, it's hard to connect with women that I want to connect with. That's a legitimate complaint, right? That's something that we should work on and want, right? But they say, well, if you take the red pill, what you find out is that they're all just rotten and you have to treat it like a game.
What I'm noticing is a lack of accountability in any of it. It's like, "Oh, I'm not meeting people," and you're giving the real advice. It's like, "Well, then change your profile. Switch something up. Don't just lean into this like, oh, it's so hard." It is difficult, and that's why you gotta put your best foot forward. Alright, we are coming up on time, and I just wanna ask, if someone listening now wants to go set up a Meet Kinksters account, what can they do?
Please join us on Meet Kinksters. You can join, it is just as helpful for me if you join as if you pay me money. I would say that there are good reasons to pay money for a premium membership, including some of the things we talked about, right? If you're concerned for your privacy, you can blur your photos on your profile. We do require people to put a picture of themselves on their profile. It is a way to ensure genuine profiles. That might change at some point in the future, but it's what we do to create the kind of community that I've talked about wanting to create. You can find us at meetkinksters.com. You can go to meetkinksters.com/TKC for the Kink Consultant, and you can get 50% off your first month of premium membership. And that entitles you to search in other places than where you live. It entitles you to be shown at the top of search results and be featured. It entitles you to have me. I'll send you stickers. You can get Meet Kinksters stickers,
I
right?
have
There's all sorts of fun benefits of being a premium member. I will also say that if you like the truth bombs I've dropped today and you believe in what I'm trying to accomplish with Meet Kinksters, you can go to meetkinksters.com, go to the bottom of the page, and there's a link to our fundraising campaign. We are trying to fundraise to bring this product to the people that need it. It is not cheap to start a dating app, and
no.
we're about halfway to a crowdfunding minimum size round. We would appreciate people with the means to invest. You can own part of the business. This is not a donation. My contact information is there. It's really not hard to get on my calendar if you want to talk about what I'm trying to achieve here. And again, courtesy of the Kink consultant herself, you can go to meetkinksters.com/TKC for half off your first month.
And I'll have a link in my bio as well so that it's easier for you to find it as well. Well, Brad, thank you so much for joining today. This has been a refreshing pleasure to chat to you about all things dating, not just in the kink space, but in general. Appreciate you coming on.
Thanks, Amanda. I really appreciate you and all that you're doing to, I think, help people have a healthy sex life and self-image. It's
Yeah,
very important.
as is your work. And this will not be the last conversation we have. Definitely so much more to come from Meet Kinksters and my working with Meet Kinksters as well. All right, thanks, Brad. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with anyone who might find it interesting. And if you have any questions or topics you'd like me to cover in future episodes, feel free to reach out. Email info@thekinkconsultant.com. Until next time, keep on kinking on.